The year was 2021, the year everything became smart. And for a while I believed that meant safe. I had just moved into my first smart apartment. It was a sleek, modern studio in a converted industrial building downtown. Exposed brick walls, steel beams, and floor-to-ceiling windows made the city glow at night. Everything was automated. I could control the lights, thermostat, blinds, and locks directly from my phone. At first, I felt like I was living in the future, but by the end of the month, I felt like I was living in a prison. It started with small, annoying glitches. I would come home from work and find my kitchen lights dimmed to exactly 10%. Not off, not bright, just wrong. I assumed it was a bug in the app, so I reset them and moved on. Then the thermostat began jumping to 85 degrees in the middle of the night, waking me up drenched in sweat. I called the building manager, but he just told me the system was learning my habits. I wanted to believe him, but the habits it was learning were not mine. One Tuesday night, I was sitting on my sofa watching a movie. Suddenly, the smart speaker in my kitchen activated. It didn't play music, it didn't answer a question. It just emitted a low, distorted burst of static, followed by a sound that made my blood run cold. It was a woman's voice, whispering my name, Elias. I jumped up, my heart hammering against my ribs. I checked the logs on my phone. The speaker hadn't been triggered by a voice command. According to the app, it had been activated remotely via an authorized secondary device. I didn't have a secondary device. I lived alone. I spent the next hour changing every single password I owned. I thought I was safe. I thought I had locked the digital door. I was wrong. About a week later, I was browsing through my photo gallery to find an old picture of my dog. As I scrolled past the recent shots, I saw a thumbnail that I didn't recognize. I tapped it and my breath hitched in my throat. It was a photo of me, asleep in my bed. The angle was from high up, near the ceiling fan. I realized with a surge of pure terror that the smart smoke detector in my bedroom had a pinhole camera built into it. I hadn't installed it. The building hadn't mentioned it in the lease. I didn't call the police right away. I was in a state of total shock. I grabbed a kitchen chair, climbed up, and ripped the smoke detector out of the ceiling. I took it apart on my coffee table, my hands trembling so hard I could barely hold the screwdriver. Inside, nestled among the wires, was a small, unauthorized wireless transmitter. I did a reverse IP trace on the transmitter using a software I found online. The signal wasn't going to a cloud server, and it wasn't going to the building manager's office. It was being broadcast to a unit within the same building. Unit 4B, my neighbor, directly across the hall. I had only spoken to the guy in 4B once. He was a quiet, middle-aged man who always wore a heavy gray coat, even in the summer. He seemed harmless, even boring. I called the police. While I waited for them to arrive, I sat in the dark, my phone gripped in my hand. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from my smart lock app. Front door unlocked. I stared at the door. I hadn't touched the app. I watched the deadbolt slowly, silently slide back into the frame. The handle began to turn. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just watched as the door creaked open about 2 inches. In the sliver of light from the hallway, I saw a familiar gray sleeve, and then I saw an eye. The man from 4B was standing there, his face pressed against the gap. He wasn't trying to break in, he was just watching. He whispered the same thing I had heard from the speaker a week earlier. "You changed the passwords, Elias. That wasn't very nice." The police arrived 5 minutes later. They found him back in his apartment, sitting in a room filled with 20 different monitors, all showing different angles of every single smart apartment in the building. He hadn't just been watching me, he had been watching everyone. He was arrested, but the damage was done. I moved out the next day. I live in a house built in the 1950s now. I don't have smart lights, I don't have a smart speaker, and I definitely don't have a smart lock. My partner Maya and I had just bought our first house together, a modern two-story with large windows and a minimalist design. We were proud, safe, finally our own space. The house came equipped with a top-of-the-line security system. Cameras on every corner, motion sensors, smart locks, even facial recognition for the front door. We felt untouchable. For the first month, everything was perfect. The cameras recorded perfectly. The locks responded instantly. The motion sensors were precise. It felt like living in a fortress. Then the small things started. Lights turning on in rooms we weren't in. Doors locking and unlocking without command. The thermostat adjusting itself overnight. At first, we thought it was a glitch, or maybe one of us accidentally triggered something. Then one night, Maya woke up screaming. "I saw someone in the living room," she whispered, trembling. I grabbed my phone and checked the cameras. Nothing, no movement, no intruder, everything seemed normal. I told her it must have been a dream. But the next morning, the locks had been unlocked from the inside, and nothing was missing. We decided to hire a professional to audit the system. The technician arrived, a quiet man with sharp eyes. He checked every camera, every sensor, every piece of wiring. "This is unusual," he said, frowning. "Everything is functioning properly. No signs of tampering. Whoever is inside, if anyone is inside, is not triggering any sensors." That night we decided to sleep in the living room together. A precaution. We set up blankets and pillows on the couch, keeping the doors locked and our phones within reach. Around 2 a.m. the lights flickered. Then the front door opened silently. We held our breath, watching the cameras on my phone. Nothing, no intruder, no movement anywhere on the feed. Then we heard footsteps in the hallway outside the living room. Slow, deliberate, approaching the front of the house where we were sleeping. And then the calm, familiar voice said, "Don't be afraid." We froze. The lights turned on. There, standing near the doorway, was Maya's sister, Layla. She smiled. "You didn't answer my texts," she said. "I just wanted to check in." Relief washed over us, and then suspicion. "I don't understand," Maya said. "The doors are locked. The alarms would have gone off. How did you get in?" Leela shrugged. "I just walked through." Confused, we watched her. Then slowly her smile widened. She raised her hand to show a small device. "It's cute, isn't it?" she said. "One of my projects at work can bypass any smart lock. Cameras, motion sensors. Doesn't matter. I've been inside all week." Everything we thought was secure had been fake. She left before we could react. The next day we had every device replaced, every system reconfigured, but the trust was gone. Because the twist wasn't a stranger, it wasn't a hacker, it was family, someone who knew us and knew how to exploit what we thought was safe. Now every time the locks click or the lights flicker, I don't just check the cameras, I check her text first. I always thought my apartment was safe. I'm a single mom working 2 jobs to make ends meet, and my little boy, Max, is everything to me. When I bought the baby monitor with the built-in camera, I thought it was just another tool to make life easier. I could check on him from my phone while I cooked, folded laundry, or ran errands. I felt secure. I felt in control. It started one evening while I was cooking dinner. I opened the app to check on Max like I always did and froze. The camera feed was on, but Max was asleep in his crib like always. Nothing seemed wrong until I noticed something in the corner of the frame. A shadow, slight, almost imperceptible. I tilted my phone. The shadow moved. I called out to him. He stirred, then went back to sleep. I shook my head, laughed nervously, and told myself I was imagining things. Then 2 nights later, I was scrolling through the app before bed. The feed flickered and I heard a voice. It was quiet, garbled, and coming through the speaker of the baby cam. "Hello, Max." My blood ran cold. I dropped the phone. My heart pounded. My son stirred, but I scooped him up immediately, holding him close. I checked the logs. No one had accessed the camera. I changed the password, enabled two-factor authentication, and told myself that would be enough. I was wrong. The next day, I came home from work to find the camera pointing directly at the doorway instead of his crib. I hadn't touched it. I went into the app trying to reposition it, and the feed lagged, then went black for a few seconds. When it returned, the camera angle had shifted again. Someone was moving it remotely. I called the company. It's secure, they told me. No evidence of a breach. I didn't believe them. My gut told me otherwise. That night I stayed in Max's room, sitting on the floor with him in my lap, phone in hand. Around 1 a.m. the feed flickered again. The camera slowly rotated. Then a message appeared on the app screen, typed out in block letters, "I see you." I screamed, Max cried. I grabbed my phone and immediately unplugged the camera. I held him tight, rocking back and forth. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't leave his side. The next morning I went to the police. They traced the IP. The signal was coming from an apartment across the street. Someone was watching, controlling, and waiting. I wanted to feel safe again, but I couldn't. I've since replaced the baby cam with a basic, non-smart monitor. No apps, no cameras, no network access, just Max and me. But every time I hear a notification ping on my phone, I freeze. Every small creak in the walls, every shadow in the corner of the room, I feel like someone is still watching. I've been a home security technician for over a decade. I install systems, troubleshoot them, sometimes reassure clients that everything is safe. Most days it's routine work, but Mrs. Hensley's case was anything but routine. She was in her late 70s, living alone in a small suburban home. Her children had installed a modern security system for her. Cameras at every corner, motion sensors in the hallways, smart locks on every door, and a doorbell camera. She called me one evening, panic in her voice. "Someone's in my house," she said. "I can hear them moving, but nothing shows on the cameras." I told her to stay calm, sit in the living room, and I would check everything remotely before coming over. From my office, I logged into her system. The cameras were all online. Motion sensors idle, smart locks engaged. Everything looked normal. I double-checked the logs, nothing unusual. No unlocks, no triggers, no motion detected. "Mrs. Hensley, can you hear anything specific?" I asked. "It's like footsteps," she whispered, "and sometimes I hear whispering. I don't understand. The doors are locked. The alarms didn't go off." I frowned. Something didn't add up. I accessed the network diagnostics. That's when I saw it, a small, unauthorized access point feeding into her system. Someone had tunneled into her network, bypassed the firewall, and was controlling devices silently. The cameras weren't offline, they were recording, somewhere else, somewhere I couldn't trace directly. I told her I needed to come over immediately. When I arrived, the house was quiet, too quiet. I ran a sweep with my portable scanner, checking Wi-Fi signals, Bluetooth devices, and the smart hub itself. Then I saw it, a tiny device tucked behind the thermostat, a micro transmitter routing everything to a server in the next neighborhood. I confronted her neighbors, checked the network paths. It was clever. Whoever did this had been in and out without touching any doors or windows. They didn't need to. The house itself had become their doorway. Mrs. Hensley was shaking when I explained. "I just wanted to feel safe at home," she said. I nodded. "I know." I spent hours replacing her smart locks, rerouting networks, and wiping every device. Cameras were reinstalled with encrypted feeds. Motion sensors reset. The system was secure again, but the look in her eyes, she didn't trust it anymore. She didn't trust me either. Weeks later, I got a call from her. "I hear clicking in the vents," she said, "and the doorbell rings at night even though nobody's there." I went back, checked everything. All systems were functioning perfectly. but I couldn't shake the feeling that the house itself had been compromised and that the hacker or whatever they were had left something behind. I left her home that night, the lights shutting behind me, and I knew one thing. Some people install security systems to feel safe. Others use them to watch, and sometimes, even when you fix it, the watcher doesn't leave.